Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. We are looking at 3 games today which have been released on Nintendo Switch over the last couple of years. They are all linked as they have the same developer and publisher combination. And I wanted to do this video because firstly, one of them was actually just released this week and is therefore newsworthy, and I wanted to do it as part of my coverage for the week. But also I wanted to cover them because I feel like these games have flown under the radar just a little, and I wanted to use this video to highlight them as excellent examples of the strategy game genre, and particularly accessible games which should be relevant for a lot of people out there who maybe have never had a chance to play a strategy game before. These 3 games are World Conqueror X, European Conqueror X, and Great Conqueror Rome, with Rome being the one that was released this week. You can check my review on digitallydownloaded.net for more information on that game in isolation. All 3 of them come to us from a very prolific Chinese developer called EasyTech, and that company has a massive library of games on mobile devices. The publisher is Circle Entertainment, which was the one that was responsible for bringing these 3 games in particular to the Nintendo Switch. Now, strategy games as a genre have a reputation for being a very unwieldy, complex and difficult thing to get into for new players. You only need to look at the likes of Crusader Kings or Romance of the Three Kingdoms to know that there's an element of truth in that reputation. Even the more accessible strategy titles like Total War and Civilization have a very distinct learning curve that requires a degree of patience to get over. And there are people out there that struggle to stay interested and enthusiastic over that initial hump. There are plenty of people that would enjoy strategy games, I feel, if only there was a more accessible stepping stone for them into the genre, but that's difficult to do because by its very nature strategy is a complex thing, and developers really need to balance out the need to provide strategy with the need to give players something that they can use to get into the experience. The problem is that when a lot of the developers try to be accessible and produce accessible strategy games, they end up being either so simple on the strategy side that they feel a little insulting to the intelligence, and that is the case with a lot of mobile strategy games and with their free-to-play mechanics, or those games are so simplified on the strategy side that we really need to define them as something different. So if we were to take Advance Wars for an example, it is an excellent game, but it's also so simple on the strategy mechanics that it would be better to define it as a tactics game. It's certainly not insulting to the intelligence like a mobile game might be, but at the same time it doesn't have the strategy core which allows people to step from Advance Wars into something like Total War or Civilization. And this is where EasyTech comes in. They do have a full range of strategy considerations, so for example, in any of their games you need to handle the production of units, the unit morale, the veterancy of the unit, so the more battles it fights, the more powerful or potent it becomes, and so on. But they're also the kind of games that you can learn in just a few tutorials, and of course the games always take you through those tutorials to onboard you. And it doesn't really matter what level your exposure is to strategy games, the EasyTech way of getting you into their games is efficient and effective, and I don't think anybody would find these games confusing after the first couple of minutes of play. The EasyTech Trio on Switch do onboard players well by giving them very easy options in terms of the armies or nations to choose and the campaigns to play through, but importantly, they also allow you to really challenge yourself. For example, you could choose to play as the Polish forces in the World War II based World Conqueror X and try to stem the tide of the invading Germans. Backing this up is some very pleasant presentation, which is both simple but clearly of the same genre as other more complex games. The point here being that by the time you've mastered one or all 3 of the EasyTech games, you are then ready for the more hardcore strategy games because they suddenly start to look less intimidating and there's a sense of familiarity already built in by the time you play one of those. Now, I've played a lot of strategy games in my time. It's something that I've been playing basically as long as I've been playing video games. And I do find the EasyTech titles to be really nice, light little experiences. They're not casual as such, because casual strategy games almost play themselves, and, as I said earlier, can feel very condescending towards the player's ability to make a decision. EasyTech games, meanwhile, allow me to make mistakes and are willing to hand out game over conditions, so if I play badly, I am going to lose. But I can also play them while watching TV or doing something else, because they don't demand my focus to the most minute degree as some other strategy games do. They're also a very good option for playing late at night before bed or whatever, when I'm tired and just want something to unwind, because they're not going to give me a headache from having to overthink everything that I'm doing in the game. There is a place for those. One area where I do feel like EasyTech falls down a little is that they don't do a good job of representing history, and that is something that I do come to with historical-based strategy games. A really, really good history-based strategy game will do its bit to inspire the player to learn as they play. If you check out my review on digitallydownloaded.net, for example, of the newly released Great Conqueror Rome, I do talk about how I don't believe that they've done that with this game. As somebody who is perhaps not as familiar with Roman history beyond the obvious stuff as I might want to be, I found that this game represented history in a very vague sense, but it never really made it clear to me where I should go to learn more information if I'm interested, and I was very much interested, in a way that Civilization or A Romance of the Three Kingdoms, for example, does. When I play Civilization, and a good example of that is the recent update which added Simon Bolivar to the game, I was immediately inspired to go and look up more information about him, his campaigns, and what he did in the world in his history, because I didn't know anything about him beforehand. Civilization gave me just enough information that I was inspired to want to learn and had a sense of what I might expect once I started to read up on him. With the EasyTech Roman game, it wasn't quite the same thing. There are some names that I obviously recognize because I have a very vague sense of Roman history, but I wasn't given any pointers on what I should probably go and look up next. Now, with that being said, the EasyTech games do not want for raw content. There are always dozens of different scenarios to play through, and if you just want to be a global conqueror, then you can play as any of the nations involved in the conflict that these games represent. So for a game like World Conqueror X, for example, where the map spans the entire globe, that gives you dozens of different sides to play through, all offering a differing starting strength and strategic conditions, working through all of that before you even get to the kind of the story campaigns as such. It just feels like it's an endless game that you will be getting into with these, which is what you do want with a strategy game. You do want that sense that it's going to continue to last you as long as you want to keep playing it, and EasyTech games do that for sure. One final consideration is there aren't many strategy games available on the Switch, and for people who like the real history strategy experience, that is particularly true. There is, of course, Civilization 6, which is excellent, and I've talked about that plenty often in the past. It's a game that I would instantly recommend to everybody, even those who are not that familiar with strategy experience games. It is complex at first, but I recommend people try to persevere with it at least. There's another title called Real Politics, though it is very it is very complex and quite overwhelming for newcomers, and I would not recommend it to newer strategy game players as a result. There is A Romance of the Three Kingdoms coming, and I do believe that that will be a game that I love, but again, it's very hard to recommend that to a newer player. The EasyTech games fill a very specific gap for me on the console as a result. They're easy to pick up and play, they are based in real history, so they work as a gateway drug as such to the broader genre, and you can play them for short bursts of time, or you can sit down with them for hours and hours as well. They do work both, they work to the Nintendo Switch's strengths as both a handheld console and a TV console. And the themes themselves are quite interesting as well. World War II is a pretty overdone setting for video games as a whole, but European Conqueror X is based on the Napoleonic Wars, and we don't see many games from that era. And Rome 2, it's a surprisingly uncommon setting for video games these days. Everybody seems to think that there's a lot of games out there that are set in Roman times, but there really aren't. So in terms of theme, the EasyTech games do fill a nice void as well. Anyway, that's enough for this video. Once again, I do recommend the EasyTech games as an excellent introduction to strategy games for people who may have been interested in the genre in some way, or just in generally they're interested in history, but found strategy to be a little bit overwhelming as a genre. These games will actually not only introduce you to the broader genre, but they are actually excellent games in their own right. If you've played any of these three, please do let me know in the comments. Let's chat about them, because I do enjoy talking about strategy games, and like I said right at the start of the video, I don't think that these ones are talked about as much as they deserve to be. So I would be very, very interested in hearing from you in the comments. If you enjoy my videos, please do click that like and subscribe button, because that way you will get to watch them all without missing any, and I do upload pretty frequently. And please also consider backing me on Patreon. If you do enjoy my videos, $1 a month goes a huge way to help me to continue to grow what I'm doing with this channel, and you'll see some pretty exciting stuff in the future. So thanks as always for watching. Have a great week. Enjoy EasyTech strategy games, and we will see you at the next video.